My friends, we are not gathered here today to speak of comfort. We are not here to indulge in dreams that have never met resistance. We are here to speak of something deeper, something that lives in the quiet chambers of the human heart. Mental toughness, the strength that carries a soul when the world has turned away, the strength that does not shout but endures. There is a misconception we must tear down, that to be mentally strong is to never feel pain, never doubt, never falter. That is not true. Pain comes, doubt visits, we all falter. But the strong are not those who avoid these things. The strong are those who walk through them with their eyes set on something greater. They endure with purpose. They do not suffer aimlessly. They choose to stand again and again because something within them says, asterisk, this matters. Asterisk, it is easy to remain calm when life is gentle. It is easy to smile when the path is smooth. But when the night is long and the weight presses heavy upon your shoulders, then we see who we truly are. Mental toughness begins there, in the moment when you could surrender and no one would blame you, but you don't. You hold on, not because you are unbreakable, but because you have chosen to be asterisk, unshaken asterisk by fear. When a person is anchored in purpose, suffering becomes transformed. It is no longer an enemy, but a passage. The fire that tests you can also refine you. The storm that shakes you can also teach you to bend without breaking. This is not a gift we are born with. It is a decision we make, often in silence, often alone. I have seen many strong people in my life. Not all of them wore uniforms. Not all of them raised their voices. Some were mothers who raised children in the dust of poverty, refusing to give in to despair. Some were young men who stood before judgment with nothing but truth in their eyes. Some were women who lit fires of hope with nothing but bare hands and a fierce love for justice. These were people who endured, not because they loved pain, but because they believed in what lay beyond it. There are days, perhaps even years, when you feel as though life is asking too much of you, when it seems every door has closed and every friend has turned their face. In those moments, mental toughness is not found in pretending to be fine. It is found in being honest with your pain, and yet refusing to let that pain define your path. It is the stubborn belief that though the ground may shake, you will not fall, and if you do fall, you will rise. What gives this strength its depth is not pride, but humility, the understanding that you are not alone in your trials, that many before you have walked through fire and come out forged in dignity, and if they could stand, so can you. Mental toughness does not cry out for pity. It stands with quiet determination and says, this is hard, but I am harder. Enduring with purpose does not mean staying in suffering forever. It means knowing why you are enduring. What are you protecting? What are you building? For whom are you carrying the weight? When you have those answers, the suffering becomes sacred. It becomes part of a larger story, not the whole story. And if ever you feel that your struggle is small, remember, there is no such thing. Every act of endurance, every step taken through hardship, no matter how unseen or uncelebrated, adds weight to the human spirit. It adds light to our common path. Your strength, your choice to rise, becomes someone else's hope. So I say to you, endure, but do not endure blindly. Hold fast, not just with clenched fists, but with open eyes and a steady heart. Find your reason. Find the purpose that makes your struggle not a prison, but a path through pain to something brighter, because it is not the absence of hardship that makes us strong. It is the presence of courage within it. My brothers and sisters, we often speak of courage as though it is something wild and spontaneous, something born in the heat of a moment. But I tell you now, courage is not chaos. It is not the loud beating of the chest or the defiant shout into the wind. True courage the kind that endures, the kind that holds a person upright through long and bitter trials, relies not on impulse but on discipline. Mental toughness is not just a matter of the heart, it is a matter of the will. It is shaped day by day in the quiet choices we make when no one is watching. It is the discipline to hold your tongue when anger tempts you to lash out. It is the discipline to rise early, to prepare, to work, even when you are tired, even when hope seems distant. It is in those small, repetitive acts of control that we lay the foundation for great strength. A person who relies on passion alone may shine brightly for a moment, but passion without discipline burns itself out. And when the fire dies, what will remain? Discipline is what stays when emotion fades. It is the hand that steadies you when your knees tremble. It is the quiet voice inside that says, keep going, one more step, one more breath, one more day. I have seen many people fall, not because they lacked the will to fight, but because they had not trained their will to obey purpose. They had not built the habits that carry you when your spirit falters. Discipline is not a punishment. It is a gift you give yourself. It is the structure that allows freedom to grow. Without it, you are at the mercy of every storm, every temptation, every fear that knocks at your door. Let me tell you this, to stand tall in the face of injustice, you must first stand tall within yourself. You must learn to master your own thoughts, your own impulses, your own weaknesses. And this is no easy thing. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes failure after failure and the humility to begin again. But this is the only way to build true mental strength, through the long and deliberate training of the soul. There are people who believe that the disciplined person is cold, unfeeling, but the opposite is true. The disciplined person feels deeply, perhaps more than others, but they do not allow every feeling to dictate their actions. They choose their battles, they weigh their words, they carry their strength like a candle in the wind, shielded, protected, steady. We must teach our children and remind ourselves that discipline is not something we do only when we are forced. It is something we choose because we know who we want to become. We do not prepare only for today's struggle. We prepare for the unknown battles ahead. We build our inner fortitude now so that when the day comes, and it will come, when we are tested beyond our limit, we do not collapse. We rise not because it is easy, but because we have prepared. Mental toughness without discipline is like a river with no banks. Powerful, yes, but also dangerous and wild. Discipline gives direction to that power. It turns force into focus. It takes the energy of the human spirit and channels it towards something lasting, something that matters. And this discipline must extend to our thoughts as well. It is easy to let fear take root in the mind, to let doubt whisper that we are not enough, that the mountain is too high, the road too long. But we must learn to discipline our thoughts, to train our minds not to run from difficulty, but to walk toward it with calm and courage. Every time we choose focus over distraction, calm over panic, clarity over confusion, we grow stronger. Let us not be fooled by noise. Real strength does not need to announce itself. It is found in the one who stands quietly in truth. It is found in the one who waits patiently for justice, not because they are weak, but because they are disciplined enough to trust the process. The loudest voice is not always the wisest. The fastest reaction is not always the right one. So let us be strong, but not reckless, brave, but not careless. Let our minds be sharp, but also steady. Let us build our toughness not only on big dreams, but on small, disciplined steps, because the one who controls themselves has already won the first and greatest battle. There is a kind of strength that many overlook. It does not come with raised fists or shouted slogans. It does not demand to be seen or heard. It sits quietly, waiting, watching, holding its place while others rush and rage. This strength is found in silence, And to master silence, true, disciplined, purposeful silence, is to master oneself. Too often, people believe power is in volume, that the loudest voice commands the most respect. But I have learned that real power often lies in restraint, in the space between reaction and response, in the pause before we speak, and in the decision not to speak at all. To control one's thoughts, emotions, and actions, even when the heart is burning and the world is pressing in, that is mental toughness in its highest form. You see, when someone insults you, when they try to provoke you, they are not only testing your dignity, they are testing your control. And the moment you answer with the same fire, they have won, not because they were right, but because they pulled you down to where they are. To remain calm, to answer softly or not at all, requires far more strength than anger ever will. Silence is not weakness, it is not fear. Silence can be clarity. It gives you time to hear your own thoughts, time to measure your next step, time to understand what truly matters. Those who are mentally tough use silence as a shield. They understand that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every word deserves an answer. They know that truth does not always need to shout. It simply needs to endure. We live in a world that is quick to judge, quick to condemn, quick to respond. But those who are mentally strong understand the power of patience. They know how to wait. They know how to breathe. And in that breath, in that sacred pause, they find something that others miss: clarity. In silence, the mind settles, the heart speaks, and the soul listens. There is courage in restraint, when the world tells you to react, and you choose instead to reflect. That is power. When the world urges you to respond with hatred, and you choose instead to speak with reason, that is control. And when your own emotions rise like a storm within you, and yet you hold the line and stand firm, that is the essence of strength. I have seen men with fists full of rage and voices full of noise, but their minds were fragile, blown this way and that by every passing wind. And I have seen others, humble and quiet, whose strength ran deep, whose silence spoke louder than any words could. These are the ones who do not seek attention, but whose presence changes the room. They do not boast. They do not tremble. They stand anchored. To control the self is the greatest victory a person can achieve, and it begins within the mind, within the heart, within the soul. No enemy outside you can break you if you are not already broken within. And no challenge can truly defeat you if your inner world is steady. There are moments when the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing, not out of surrender, but out of strategy, not out of fear, but out of faith, that truth, justice, and character will speak in time. And in that silence, something extraordinary happens. The noise fades, and you begin to hear your own convictions more clearly. You begin to feel what truly matters. Mental toughness is not only about standing against others, it is about standing over yourself. Being able to say, I will not let anger speak for me today. I will not let fear decide my path. I will not be ruled by the emotions of this moment. That is the strength that cannot be taken. That is the strength that builds nations, heals wounds, and inspires others to rise. So let us not be afraid of silence. Let us not rush to fill every space with noise. There is wisdom in stillness and power in waiting. Let us master ourselves so that when we do speak, we speak not just with words, but with truth, with dignity, and with peace. There comes a time in every person's journey when strength alone is not enough, when the body is too tired, the heart is too burdened, and the path ahead seems too long. In such moments, the question is not whether you are strong, but whether your strength is tied to something greater than yourself. Because when you carry a purpose larger than your own comfort, when your steps serve more than your own ambition, you will find a well of endurance that does not run dry. Mental toughness is not sustained by pride or ego. These things collapse under pressure. Real strength, the kind that bends but does not break, comes from knowing that your struggle is part of something meaningful. It is rooted in a cause that reaches beyond your own life, something that touches others, something that calls you to rise, even when you have every reason to sit down. A person who fights only for themselves will grow weary. But the one who carries the hope of others, who stands in defense of justice, of dignity, of peace, that person draws strength not just from within, but from the voices of the countless unseen who walk beside them. Their pain is no longer just their own, it is shared, and so is their courage. I have known people who endured far more than what seemed humanly possible, not because they were made of stone, but because they believed their suffering could lead to something better for those who came after them. They believed in freedom, in fairness, in the right of every child to live with dignity. They believed, and so they endured. Their wounds became testimony, their silence a song of resistance, their footsteps a road for others to follow. To serve something greater than yourself does not always mean standing on a stage or leading a movement. Sometimes it means keeping faith in your community when others have turned their backs. Sometimes it means choosing honesty over comfort, compassion over convenience, even when no one thanks you. It means remembering in every decision that you are part of a larger family, the human family, and your choices echo beyond your own life. There is a sacred power in realizing that you are not the center of the story, that your pain, your joy, your dreams are threads in a much larger tapestry. And when you see this clearly, even the hardest moments change. You begin to see your suffering not as a punishment, but as a responsibility to carry, to transform, to build. It is not always easy to live for others. The world teaches us to protect ourselves first, to pursue comfort, to measure success by what we gain. But the strongest among us measure success by what we give. They understand that true victory is not personal, it is collective. It is found in the child who learns to read, in the mother who sleeps without fear, in the worker who walks free. When you live with purpose, your strength takes on a different shape. It is no longer desperate, it is calm, it is no longer defensive, it is generous. You begin to understand that toughness is not about how hard you can hit, but how deeply you can care without giving in to despair. And caring deeply, my friends, is not a weakness. It is the highest form of courage. This kind of strength inspires others. When people see you standing not for yourself, but for something just, something bigger, they begin to believe they can do the same. They begin to see a path where there was none. They begin to trust again. Your courage becomes a mirror, and in it they see their own potential reflected. Let us then be people who draw our toughness from purpose. Let us build our endurance not on pride, but on service. Let us become pillars that others can lean on, not because we are without wounds, but because we have turned our wounds into wisdom. And when we rise each morning, let us ask, whom do I serve today? What does my struggle help to build? Because when we serve something greater than ourselves, we do not walk alone. We walk with the hopes of those we love, the dreams of those still unborn, and the memory of those who came before us. And that kind of strength, steady, humble, and rooted in purpose, can carry us through anything.